responsible for what happened at St. Mary's.
And the government's looking at using technology like facial recognition.
State of surveillance. I'm Thuy Vu. Last June, we learned the National Security Agency has been collecting Americans' phone records and email for years.
Close your eyes and think. What does our future quality of life look like if surveillance-oriented society continues to evolve? With no sign of the digital age slowing down, we could soon be completely consumed by technology, increasing the risk of constant personal surveillance without privacy. In Western society, social media has already proven itself as one of the most intrusive aspects of our culture. However, when comparing our current circumstances to other parts of the world, we can clearly see how the rise of constant surveillance has progressed in a much more intrusive manner. If we continue to progress surveillance technology, we risk becoming a surveillance state, but it might already be too late. Although it's a terrifying idea, surveillance and the concept that someone is always watching is now quite normalized and does not come to a shock to anyone who has a mobile device. With the growth of our social media use, we have made it even easier than ever to share information amongst one another. However, this makes the idea of privacy quite dubious.
In the last decade, it's become increasingly normal for civil liberties to be eroded and for government agencies to spy on citizens, to collect and store their personal information. Regardless of whether you're a fan of right or left-wing policies, this affects every one of us.
As of 2017, over 50% of the global population has access to the internet. We're entering a time where security has evolved into control. Programs designed to weed out potential threats have now turned into mass surveillance, or surveillance over the entire population. For example, 30 million surveillance cameras are now deployed in the United States, shooting 4 billion hours of footage a week. Chicago is one of the top 5 most surveyed places on the earth, with New York City also being on the top 5 list. It is estimated that there are more than 17,000 cameras in Chicago, including 4,000 installed by Chicago public schools and at least 1,000 at international airports. Chicago has the largest, most sophisticated surveillance network in the United States at this present time. Mayor Daley has called it the next best thing to a police officer on every corner. Despite governments slowly becoming aware of the risk of exposure private social media outlets can produce, some governments see this as an opportunity to enforce control.
We basically kept it pretty hush-hush.
The power to track more people and data than ever before.
To be worth its weight in gold.
From regulating all civil and political liberties for human rights to prohibiting any form of international communications, North Korea has been established as one of the world's most repressive states. With the government maintaining a high level of fear and control over the nation, restrictions of contact from the outside world have become highly punishable by prison time or death.
North Korea has long tried to deny the existence of their prison camps, but thanks to testimony from defectors and satellite imaging, we know that they exist. It's estimated that they hold as many as 120,000 people currently, mostly sent there because of political offenses.
Access to the online world is limited to sites that contribute to the domestic intranet, where data is chosen and altered by authorities while ensuring all activity is monitored. Even the mere attempt of watching or consuming anything that is not government approved is considered a major conspiracy. All news, entertainment, and information delivered to the nation is filtered through state media, which essentially manipulates the publications to praise leadership and maintain utter devotion to Kim Jong-un. As the family has ruled North Korea for 3 generations, their influence and excessive discipline has brought absolute, systematic control over all forms of telecommunication. The enforcement of government propaganda is constantly spread throughout the very few forms of mobile communications, as the nation is being starved of any real information. With mobile surveillance evolving throughout recent years, the severity of filtering online media has increased, as any sites that don't comply with the authorities' propaganda are eradicated. Commissioned by the late Kim Jong-il, Kwangmyeon is the sole system operated on throughout the limited computers North Korea provides to the public. However, once interacting with the system, you would find an internet so narrow and lacking in any depth that it's difficult to establish it as an expansive global network that those outside of the country would know it to be. Mainly consisting of low-quality message boards, chat functions, and state-sponsored media, Qualmion has been described as a mosquito net of sorts, as its infrastructure allows for just the bare essentials to be passed in and out. Even with such a closed network, only an elite few living in the capital of Pyongyang will ever have access, while most North Koreans will never go online, preserving their total ignorance. Recently, with the immense adoption of mobile devices consuming most parts of the world, technical measures have ensued as the state progresses into taking advantage of this newfound technology, treating it as a weapon of mass surveillance. With most outside world information threatening the authority of the North Korean regime, codes and programs have been embedded within devices that survey you constantly, prevent any file sharing not signed off by the government, and will even capture random screenshots of your browsing history and general mobile activity. This implements a psychological message that serves as a warning to not even attempt to deviate from their restrictions, because someone is always watching.
We need to reflect and comprehend the different levels of surveillance and the looming threat it poses in order to better equip ourselves for the coming conflict, as well as promote change. The question remains, how does one have freedom with surveillance embedded in our culture?